All right, so this next topic, workplace investigations and terminations. So we're just going to build upon in discipline. If it's a severe enough case, how do you go about investigating? And this can be, again, a very complicated area. So I'm gonna go over it. I can't go into as much depth as you could have 2-3 day long courses on this topic. And I've actually investigation process years ago. I remember because I used to handle harassment complaints for one place I worked. So it got very detailed, right? But I want to show you a process that I've used. And again, these things in HR you need to have a process, really. That's my belief. To be consistent and to be viewed as fair, you have to have a process in place. So we'll go through that, and then we're going to do another case study towards the end. But in terms of your objectives, what objectives are they? Do you have any different objectives from what we have on here again? Maybe I can ask the question that way. What could we add for objectives for this topic? Anything different? Okay, good. Yeah. Sorry. So this is for investigations. Oh, what did I just do? Uh-oh. Did I turn it off? I hit... Oh, there we go. Oh, I'm good. Me and technology. So formalized process. Yes, well, hopefully I can help you with that. All right, so let's just jump into it. And what time is it? I'm the worst for talk about timing. 10:40? Okay. So can you let me know when it's about 10 after? Thank you. I don't like wearing a watch. I don't like looking at my phone all the time. So, okay. So what type of, yeah. Yeah. How to build trust, right? Oh, that's good. Yeah, no, trust it's at the core of all relationships, right? Work relationships. If trust isn't there, it's hard to work effectively without it, for sure. Yeah, very good. Okay, so types of issues that would require investigation. So the safety violation that we just talked about, like as you guys were talking, I could see there's going to be maybe a little bit of investigation. I mean, it's pretty straightforward that person was insubordinate, but you still need to follow up. Is this behavior something that they've done in the past? There's still some questions that you need to look into. But even bigger safety violations, could have even more questions that need to be asked. Harassment is a big area, right? Which that's one. And really the process that I'm going to show you, that's where I've used that the most, is in those scenarios that you have to be very diligent in your investigation. Theft is a big one, and theft can take various forms. Theft could be stealing a couple of pens. Okay, maybe that's not so severe. But, theft, bigger types of theft of equipment, theft of, technology, those kind of things could be very severe. So those are some of the issues that when we talk about these more in-depth investigations, these could come into play. And so there's definitely challenges, and I think anyone in HR would say that's lack of training and experience in doing these investigations. For me, that would be the biggest hurdle, right? And I'm not talking just HR, like the managers that are involved, maybe they don't understand the depth that they just want to deal with it right away, and having to, hey, there's a due process we have to follow. That's what can be really challenging in these situations. And when you're a small company, and having the time to do this too, like it's hard to dedicate that time. But if you've got a harassment situation or something like that, you have to deal with it. You talk about building trust in your employees. You can't just brush things like that aside. So very important to find the time. And I know there's companies out there that can help small businesses too. I mean, I don't do this, but I've heard there's companies that can do investigations for you. because that's something, if you don't do a lot of this kind of thing and you need the help, you could get outside help to work through all the details. It's definitely one of the toughest jobs, I think, in HR, because it's one of those things that I remember it can just consume you for a week, and you've got all your other duties going on, right? Nothing else stops, but you have to, it's so important, you have to resolve it in a timely manner. And sometimes it's difficult to know what to do. So we're going to go through all these steps. But sorry, first, here's what's at stake. Could someone mind reading that for me? The quote.
Workplace investigation is not conducted properly, damage the reputation of the company and everyone involved in the investigation. Damage employee morale and trust can have a negative financial impact on the company.
Yeah, there could be fines or penalties, right? There could be a lot of things that could come into play. So it's definitely not something you can ignore, like the little picture says, and hope that it goes away. It needs to be dealt with in a timely manner. So we're going to go through, this is a process just in my experience and just what I've followed. It seems long, but as we go through it, you'll see like it flows in a manner that it's really makes sense, like with the next steps. So we're going to go through each of these steps in detail. But in my opinion, the first step is really one of the most important steps, is to plan. You can't just jump in and start investigating when you got a big issue. Developing the plan, and then everything else will fall into place. Once you've got a plan, at least you know what the next steps are going to be. So we'll go through each of these in a little bit more detail. So this being, when you're developing a plan, again, this is the part, like in the last case study, you're asking yourself questions as well as, so there's the logistics around an investigation. Who's going to conduct the investigation? That could be the number one question, because maybe you're not the best person to conduct it. When you're a small company, you want to talk about that. Who can be the most unbiased? If you were involved somehow in this, if they were insubordinate against you, then you shouldn't be the one doing the investigation. It should be someone unbiased. Or if the person reports to you, no, it shouldn't be. It should be someone else that could do it. Be very clear on what's being investigated. What was the infraction? Like, just be really crystal clear on that before moving forward. And then evidence. So evidence is the next step, like gathering evidence. But this is where you brainstorm. You think about, okay, what kind of evidence do I need to gather? Are there reports that I have to look at that support? Are there, who do I need? Who are the individuals I need to talk to? If it was a harassment complaint, who's the complainant? Who else might have been witnesses? So and some of these you'll add to as you get deeper into the investigation, but you'll know some of these answers already when you're just doing the planning. What are some barriers that could get in the way? Maybe someone's on vacation. Maybe, there's some things that could get in the way of moving forward. And then other things in the plan is, where will I conduct the interviews? Where's a place that, obviously it's got to be a confidential place and somewhere that is not in plain view for the rest of the employees to see, and those type of things. And then knowing kind of what the next steps are. Like, so once I gather all this information, who's going to review it and help make the decision? So we'll go through all those steps as well, but that's part of developing the plan. Can you think of any other questions that you might ask when you're developing a plan for how you're going to handle the investigation? That's a good, you won't know exactly, but that's a good point. Like, gee, if I have to interview this many people and I have all these steps, like this could take about 7 days, or to have some idea. So that if people are asking, like, when are you going to be able to get this wrapped up? You be reasonable. You need a reasonable amount of time. Yeah, I've had some that have taken a couple weeks to investigate, right? Depending on the number of people you need to talk to and the different shifts that they're on, or sometimes bringing them in from off their shift. And it can get very complicated.
So when you talk about
For sure. Yeah. And that's why I'm taking it like through these steps, and very good. So when we talk about the step of interviewing, I would have definitely jot down some of the questions you want to ask before. Now, with these kind of interviews, though, they're going to go different directions. So you're going to be asking other questions. One question will lead to another question. But yeah, that's the best, I think, to be very thorough, take good notes, document everything. Yeah, it'll go a lot smoother. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, good. No, good suggestion. Okay, then gathering the I say initial evidence because from once you interview individuals, there might be other evidence that you might find about. So this is the initial evidence that you know needs to be considered. And so you can think about what's some stuff that I have to gather. Doctor's notes, whatever the infraction is. Maybe someone harassment, they sent inappropriate emails. So you might have to talk to the IT department, get some emails that were sent. I've had that situation, so you have that up front. So it's not a matter, you're not having to gather that after you've spoken to them, you've got that already. And that would definitely help with conducting the interviews then, which is the next step. So this is where, again, the investigator, like I said, they have to be unbiased and be able to be objective through the process. If it's someone that's been involved in some way, not the best person to, because you want to look fair and you're not prejudging before, right? And then in conducting the interviews, should there be a particular order, do you think could that be one thing you might think through? Who do you interview first? Say it's harassment. You'd interview the complainant first, right? You need to hear out what actually happened. You can't go to the person that, without hearing out what the complaint is. Then you go to the alleged, the person that is accused of doing the misconduct. There might be witnesses, but some of the witnesses might not be relevant. Having to ask yourself that too, is that person, because they know that person, they grew up with this person, is that a relevant witness in this situation? That's where you could go on a wild goose chase, right? It's important to ask, is this relevant to, am I sticking to just gathering the information here? And always going back to what is the issue that we're investigating? What is the real issue here? You're probably going back to that frequently too will help. But this is, develop some open-ended questions. So definitely have your questions in advance, but remember they could go in different directions too. And follow a consistent interview structure. So what I mean by that, I always like to explain, you're not asking the same questions necessarily of each person, no, because they're coming from different perspectives, but explain the reason for the meeting, confidentiality, that you will be taking some notes to document what was said so that you can remember what was said. And sometimes the individual statements, I've asked them to sign them, even, the complainants where I've had harassment investigations. And I say, I want to make sure that this is very accurate, what you're describing to me. I'm going to take notes. I want to read it to you after, and they've signed it. So, that's very strong too, because if you do end up firing this person, and if they end up if they're unionized and it goes to arbitration, or if they're not unionized and they still, they go to a lawyer for wrongful dismissal, those type of things will be really, beneficial in court to uphold the termination.
Have you ever recorded it, or would you ever record it?
I haven't. That's a good question, eh? No, I know. No, it's
in the moment. It would be really hard
in the
to
moment.
make sure you're getting
Yeah, that's a really good question, though.
Sometimes you can have another person in the room, so one of you can be having the conversation, and one person.
That's true. One person could be the recorder. Yeah. Sorry.
People naturally don't want to get anyone in trouble. How do you deal with that? How do you get people to be more open on it?
Yeah. Well, that's.
Oh, he's a good guy. Or usually they get out of that. That's not the question.
I know. And that's what I've done is just kind of explain like the cultural or reasons behind if it's something like harassment. Well, that these type of behaviors are taken very seriously, and we can't tolerate this in the workplace. We want to have a safe environment here. So just explaining how serious it is and that we have to treat these situations seriously. Any other comments of how you'd handle it?
That comes down to planning the questions too. So you're asking the right questions, and so that will be perceived fairly by
Right.
the witness.
Whoever you're interviewing. Yeah. No, that's right. But to your point, like sometimes I don't want to get them in trouble. They might be reluctant to answer the questions, and yeah, because these are very sensitive topics, right? And it's some people don't want to be the whistleblower, or it's won't open up as much as others, but yeah, it's they're tough ones for sure. So that's conducting interviews, and then any follow-up evidence. So from those interviews, you might have got some additional information you didn't have before, and it's relevant, and then you would go ahead and look up any additional evidence. So that's just, this step is just a good checkpoint. Is there anything else that we need to gather in order to be able to make a decision in the end?
You might want to have some sort of prior cases or similar what we call law, where you have a precedent that's been set.
Right.
You might want to know what that is.
And that's where a call to a lawyer, like before you actually make the decision. Good point. So this is where, you're going to compile all of your notes, your evidence, and like depending on the severity again. So I've had to, in my job, like make a very formal like report of all the findings and everything. And then in the process, it would be the decision maker that it would go to next, right? It wouldn't be, I would have a recommendation, but the report would go to the decision maker that would decide what, and this is where I would definitely get legal counsel before if you're going to terminate, is there case law to support this type of, and that's where they'll really be, you could do your own research too, but that's what the lawyers are they're very good at knowing what the case law is. So yeah, this is the step 6. So you're already at the decision makers. So, but getting that report together and gathering, that could take a week, 2 weeks, depending on how complicated and how much time it's going to take to do that. And I think what I've always found is just in terms of trust, just if employees know that something big is going on too, and I'd have employees coming as the HR manager coming in your office, and so when is this going to, and just trust the process, right? And understand that it's going to be dealt with, and you got to stay confidential. You can't divulge stuff to others, but if it's severe and it's got a lot of visibility, just letting people know that this is being dealt with. That's got, and then the trust, trust that the process will resolve the issue. And then there's just the point there that the decision should be aligned with past practice. Yeah, for sure, within your company, but to your point as well, how has this been dealt with outside the company too? What's the case law showing? So step 7. So once the outcome is decided, you develop a plan for how it's going to be, how you're going to notify the people that have been involved with it. So obviously, the witnesses and with them, you would just share, this, knowing that this has been resolved. If you're firing someone, they're going to see that the person's not going to be there anymore. You don't get into the details. That's not for them. Just know that you've dealt with it. And, but there might be a communication that just has to happen that, that the person's no longer with the company. The people will know that, right? That has happened. Other follow-ups I can think of though I think that's step 8 as well. So this is to the affected parties. So that's more if discipline is an outcome, obviously you're sitting down, you're having that conversation. And I'm going to share, so if termination is the outcome, we're going to get into that. I'm going to share kind of a checklist that you could go through in that scenario. But this is closing the loop, right, with those people involved in it, so that they know, okay, we've completed the investigation, and please know that what you shared, it's been kept confidential, because that is some of the statements they're sharing. It should just be the decision maker and the investigator, or decision makers. There might be more, and there might be, usually, you're right, there's 2 people doing the interviews. It might be the HR, and it might be, another or 2 people in HR or something that are doing the interviews. What I mean by other follow-ups, so that's, okay, so we resolved it. This is the outcome. The person's fired. Now what? So there might be, because there might have been a violation of some of some policy, or if it's harassment, maybe there's some human rights training that needs a refresher that needs to be done for everybody. So this is being, proactive, following up and doing some of those things, because you don't want this incident to happen again, right? You don't want a repeat offense. So are there any things that, training that you could do? Another thing is making sure the managers, the people that were interviewed or might have been, make sure there's no retaliation. Because that's one thing with harassment that could happen. Some of the employees if people know who complained, some employees, could give them a hard time, and that violates, human rights. There cannot be retaliation. So, just making sure the managers know that, so that they could watch out for that. They might not know that, just so they watch out that will not be tolerated. Those people could be or disciplined then if any of that happens. Yeah, or if the code of conduct is another thing. Maybe you need another refresher on the code of conduct. It's a good opportunity to do that if there was a violation there. So those are the kind of follow-ups that would happen with the overall workforce if something big goes on. What questions do you have about those 8 steps? I know we went through them quickly, but I want to be able to get you guys to the case study so you can spend some time discussing. I'll summarize in this slide, though, the guiding principles. So the plan is so important, right? The beginning, right? Making sure you have that plan in place, making sure you got the right person investigating the issue, because you want to treat all employees involved with respect and dignity, right? And just making sure that comes across. The investigator, that's why you want to make sure you're impartial and unbiased, because you're looking at all sides of the story. I would. Yeah, very good point. Like if that does happen, that's where the investigator has to, wait a minute, something's happened here. I can't do this anymore because now, my brother-in-law is involved with, or you never know, like in some big workforces that can happen. And
then you say,
yeah.
I sympathize with the person who the offense went to, or that person just off the wall and you go the other way. You can't conduct anything at that point because all your questions would be biased to be looking for your point of view.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so if you can't manage those, no, that's a good point. As a manager, as a leader, a lot of times we can manage those. Of course you're going to have empathy for, as long as you can manage that. As soon as you find yourself not being able to manage that, very good point. That's where someone else should be. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. That's a great point. Thank you so much for sharing that. What other? Yeah, and just the communication plan is really important too at the end, because that's what you're going to wrap everything up, right? It's otherwise you just do the investigation without those important follow-ups that closes the loop on everything. So what if termination is the outcome? How do you proceed? So, well, first of all, again, this is a big topic that we could spend several hours on termination, right, in the process. So thank you, Chris. I'm handing out a tool, just like a checklist. Wait, I'm going to make sure I have a copy so I can just see what I've... So first of all, when I say termination, thank you, is it for cause or not for cause? Like, so in this kind of scenario where I've been talking, if it's harassment and you have cause, just cause to terminate the person, then you don't have to give them notice, right? Notice meaning severance, or you don't have to give them any payout for, you can terminate someone if it's not for cause, even if you don't have enough, enough of a case, right? You can still terminate them without cause, but then you would have to pay them. When that happens is when there's not a fit, right? When there's not a fit in the company or any restructuring, that's where a job is eliminated, that people have to have some severance for that, right? But if you built the case for cause, it can be with no pay. You have to make sure you've done this thorough investigation though, right? That's where you have to make sure all your ducks are in order. You've investigated, you've documented everything really well, and definitely go over everything with a lawyer before you proceed. Because you might think you have enough for just cause, and they might say, you know what, based on the case law, this isn't severe enough. It warrants a suspension, but not termination. So, those are the kind of conversations, because if it's not for cause and you do want to offer, payment because the employment relationship maybe in certain situations has been destroyed, or, the person just couldn't work there anymore. That's where you really talk to a lawyer and see what's appropriate. And because every situation is different. But this checklist is, okay, so if it is happening, and this is on your memory sticks. So it's just an Excel sheet, so you can add your own, or, if you already have something like this, great. But if this is something you don't have and you want to develop one, you can add your own. But I added whatever points I could think of that I've used in the past. So I've got, so just a lot of the logistical issues. So this is when you sit down, you're going through the actual process of terminating someone. What are the steps that you would discuss with them? So the severance package, if there is one, things like confidentiality of the package that's between the employer and the employee, and they can discuss it with a financial advisor, but there's all those things would be in there. Recovery of company property. There's all those things that you would have to recover. And then steps immediately following. So this is important because you want to IT access. If you think the employee might go and jeopardize something online, make sure their IT access is cut off, those kind of things. And another thing in the interview, the termination interview, is, assessing how the person's feeling. If they're really distraught, are they in a right state of mind to be able to drive themselves home? So I've had situations where cabs have been called or whatever to get the person home because they're not in a right state of mind to be able to. Other people have been so happy. They're like skipping out of there, right? So that's the thing with termination too. You're going to have so many different emotions. You don't know. Yeah. Now, I've seen those more. That's in downsizing, right? Where it's being restructured, or some people saw it coming and, they're getting a good package and they're fine. But other people, this is probably the most emotional thing that could happen to someone at work, right? Is being terminated. Whether it's for cause or not, it can be very emotional. Extremes in either ways. So yeah, just a checklist. Like I said, that's on your memory stick. So you can use that if that helps. So I think I skipped ahead and we talked about some of the, but I did skip ahead. Just in terms of when you're planning the meeting. So this is happening, you're terminating the employee. Again, logistics, where's the right place to have the conversation? Make sure you've got the right, where you could be confidential. Is it a safe place for everyone? I've had to terminate employees where they seem to be a bit of a threat. So they could have been a threat to myself or to the employees. So I had security waiting outside, and I had a little button that I just had to press if I needed security. And I had someone else with me. Like, hopefully you don't have to go to these extremes, but there's a lot of things that you could just, think about. I've had private investigators follow employees after because we thought that they were a threat to their manager. Hopefully you don't have those situations, but think about any of these scenarios that could happen. This is when you're, planning to sit down and think about who it should be two people when you're informing. And this is where it could be HR and the manager, right? Informing the employee that they're being terminated. If it's not for cause, this is where, does your company have an employee assistance program? Is that something that you could offer up? If it's restructuring, and their job is being eliminated, is there career counseling that you could offer? I've worked with companies that have offered that. And so taking them through that and explaining that to them. The date of the notification, I put avoid dates of significance to the employee. So that's by personal experience, because unfortunately, working for big companies, I have had to terminate a number of people over the years. I accidentally terminated someone on their 40th birthday. I didn't know that. Of course I didn't know that. I could have waited a day. But, when they shared that with me, I felt so bad that how could you? And so, just one little minor, is it their birthday? That's easy to check because as an employer, you should have their birthday. But there might be other significant events that you could just try to avoid.
What about a day of the week?
That's a good question. People have different perspectives on that. Yeah, I generally, yeah, please.
This sounds bad, but Friday to me, because we actually had a case where we had to terminate someone who was done in the middle of the week, and it really disrupted our whole, everyone else, like all of our other staff. It was quite chaotic, and I just found that we weren't functioning to full capacity because of the situation. So I feel like Fridays sometimes they have the weekend. Everyone has the weekend to kind of recoup and get back on track.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, different perspectives, right? But I agree, Monday or like midweek can be disruptive, right? Yep. Time of day as well. Some people believe right at the beginning of the day, and I think out of respect for the employee, that's what I would do if they kind of know it's coming. Don't make them sit all day, and it's awful. Get it done at the beginning of the day. Yeah. Exactly. You're anticipating it the whole day. Yeah. No, in my experience, I've come in very early before shift, like 6 a.m. if shift starts at 7, to notify people before the shift even starts. Yeah. Any other questions, comments about this process? Okay. So how am I doing for time, Chris? Sorry. Okay. That's good. Well, we have enough time for the case study. So just to wrap it all up, treating the exiting employee with dignity and respect. So, this is, even when they have, it's misconduct, it's still like it's how you're showing up as a person, as a leader, and the company, to just show respect for the process and for what they're about to go through. Because it is, like we said, there could be a wide range of emotions. They could be really happy, where you wish them all the best, or they could be really distraught. So just to be aware of that. And if you just keep, as respectful and as calm as you can, that's, the process will go much better for everybody. And I think I've already talked about assessing their well-being. If there's concerns there, what do you have in place that you can help make sure they get home safely, and any of the follow-ups that are required afterwards. So now I'm just going to hand out the key takeaway quiz. Where's my helper? He disappeared. Thank you. If you don't mind handing out he's been terminated. Yeah, I'm going to have to, let him go. So we're going to do a little quick quiz again before we move on to the case study. And this time we just have one scenario for the case study, not two. Okay. No problem. Thank you for coming. It's nice to meet you. There you go. You're welcome. There we go. And there you go. Thank you. All right. So some challenges of conducting investigations. What are some of the challenges that we talked about at the beginning? Lack of training, very good. Yeah, lack of training and experience. What's another one? We don't have enough time. Exactly, we don't have enough time. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good point. Like looking at different perspectives, right? How is the person coming at this? Is there a personal motive behind this complaint, or? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's definitely a challenge. And so if you don't have a clear process, that can be a challenge, right? So that's another one. Lack of a clear process. And difficulty in making a decision is another one, right? Because there are so many factors involved here, to your point, that it makes the decision-making process more difficult. So we'll fill in the blanks here. When a workplace investigation is not conducted properly, it can damage the what of the company? Reputation. Yeah, reputation of the company. And everyone involved in leading the investigation can also damage their reputation. It can damage employee morale. Yeah, employee morale. And that T word, trust. Yes. And can have a negative financial impact on the company. And then the steps in the investigation process. What's step number 1? The plan. Very good. Develop the plan. And then you gather what? Next step. Initial evidence. Very good. And then third, you conduct interviews, yeah, and document the interviews and any statements. And then the fourth, you gather any follow-up evidence. Very good. Number 5 is where you complete the report and your recommendations as the investigator. Number 6, you pass the report on to the decision makers. They review and they decide the outcome. And number 7, you communicate the outcome to all the affected parties. And number 8 is any other follow-ups. Very good. So again, on this key takeaways page, I have a section there. If there's one key learning from the session today that you'd like to apply to your work, what would it be? So if you can think of that now, or if you want to, something that you want to follow up and incorporate into your work, you can document that there. That's your own personal accountability. So to keep it simple, maybe let's just stick with the same groups that we had before. And we're going to work on this one case study. I put my disclaimer there. The case study used in today's sessions were created for training purposes only, and any use of names is arbitrary and does not represent any real people. Although I was thinking of friends' names when I put in the names. But so Lisa works as a call center representative and has worked for this company for 5 years. She's respected by her coworkers, always works hard, and has had positive performance reviews each year. She works in an open space with 5 other representatives. It's a busy place and the employees work hard and also like to joke around to make work fun. John is the supervisor of the team and he's been in his role for 8 months. He likes to joke around with the team too and seems to be particularly fond of Lisa, always giving her extra attention when he visits the work area. Lisa seems to be uncomfortable with this, but hasn't said anything to him. Lisa has come to HR to file a complaint about John's inappropriate behavior. She explains that John has often stopped to visit her at her workstation and gives her compliments that seem to single her out from the rest of the group. A few days ago, he touched her back and said he really liked her outfit, making her feel even more uncomfortable. Later that day, he sent her an email asking her to go out with him on a date. Lisa does not feel comfortable talking to John about this because he is her supervisor, so he's come to HR instead. Lisa says that the other 5 workers have seen how John acts towards her and could share their observations as well. So how will you handle this situation as the HR rep? So pretend that you're the HR person, that Lisa's come to you with this complaint, and ask yourself the following questions. So what are the first steps that you'll take immediately after Lisa files a complaint? Develop a plan for your investigation, detailing some of the specific steps you'll take. And then in the end, would discipline or termination be a potential outcome in this scenario? And discuss that with your group. Okay? So we'll take about, I don't know, we probably won't need a full half hour for this one because it's just one scenario, but I'll gauge by going around. And if you need to take a quick stretch break too, remember this is your time to get up and walk around or take a bio break. I won't make you start this time. Okay, so we're going to do a debrief. I'd like to hear from each of the groups a little bit about this complicated scenario. Lots of gray in this one. So what are the first steps that you'll take immediately after Lisa files a complaint? Who would like to? The first steps right after she files a complaint. You're the HR person.
So the number one thing we would do is document what happened or what's discussed with the conversation. And then the next step would probably be to develop a plan for the investigation.
Right. Very good. Any other comments here? What your first steps would be?
We actually thought we discussed we would actually look into our policies first to ensure that they are clear and that the employees understand what is expected or not expected of them. And then to go along with the other group, we would speak to Lisa to get specific information as to the details of what all went down, and then develop our plan of action from there.
Good. Thank you. This group. Okay, good.
One of the things, the importance of making sure getting specific, so the time, the event, the behavior. Often the complaints come very general,
Right.
and it's pretty hard to try to address an issue that's not very specific. So if it ends up where, well, just try to be better, it's very general at that point. Where if it's, here's the time and dates of what the behavior was and the specifics, then you can work with that. But trying to get it down to that detail.
Getting some real specifics around the complaint, what specifically happened, exactly, date, time, place, all those kind of things. Yeah, yeah. Well, that's good. So another thing that, because that's right when she's coming with the complaint, is letting her know that this is these allegations of harassment are taken very seriously, and they have to be investigated and resolved in a timely manner, because you never know. What if this was just? What if she just doesn't like her supervisor and she's trying to get him in trouble? So you're just saying this is a very serious allegation. It will be taken very seriously, and there's a process that we must we have to go through, and it's going to be resolved in a timely manner, and that will help kind of show that the seriousness of it, and you're taking it seriously, because it goes both ways, right? It's hearing her side, and then you're going to hear her supervisor's side of the story as well. So question number 2, develop a plan for your investigation, detailing some of the specific steps you'd take. So what are some of the specific steps you guys would take in your plan? Thank you. You can hand it to anyone else too in your group. Sorry, just you're the closest.
Yeah.
That's okay. You guys had some great discussion though. Like
we got sort of sidetracked with the situation, and then
No.
we kind of went next on to number 3.
That's okay.
Reviewing, if there's any video footage, reviewing any video footage. So just starting to compile the evidence.
Yeah, see if there's any evidence you need to
Right.
compile.
Email,
The email.
interview the 5 other workers. So just starting
Yeah.
to get the evidence.
So would you ask her for the email maybe? Would that be something?
Right.
Ask her for a copy of the
Yeah.
email? That's
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah. I don't think there was anything else.
Would you interview the other 5 just because she just threw it out there that they're witnesses? Would you? Is that relevant?
I
Okay.
Yeah, I think I would.
Yeah.
Carefully.
Because she might have just thrown them out there as in her mind it was a back, I don't know, how tricky is Lisa?
Well,
She might just be
and that's what-
tricky.
What if they told you, I don't know what you're talking about?
Right.
You've never
So
seen it. Then that to me would throw a red flag up. Okay,
Yeah.
how now can I approach John, because is she making this all up?
But I would ask.
but then is it worrisome to bring that to light to the other workers if it, you know what I mean? Because then
Careful.
so what do you do?
Yeah.
Help us.
Well, and this is where again I get very specific about the complaint.
Yeah.
So when it happened, who was in the vicinity? Were all 5 there? Did all 5 witness it? Ask some of those questions right away, so that
Right.
yeah, because it might be a bit of a wild goose chase again.
Right.
5 people, that's going to take a while to interview 5 people, and is it relevant?
Well, and you can approach the 5 as, we're here to talk about October 10th. And if they look at you and don't know anything of what you're talking about, but if you say that, you have specifics and they're able
Exactly.
to enhance that, that maybe.
So keep it very vague and be like, hey, do you recall if there was anything
Yeah.
that comes to mind on that date? And
Because if you go in there and you just start using right away, then
riled up. Yeah. And the thing is once you put something in someone's mind, they see what they want to believe, or they believe what they want to see.
Yeah.
But either which way, it can, yeah, you plant a seed in there.
So maybe, but being specific enough that were you witnessed any interaction between Lisa and John? And then go from there and ask them more specific. Is there anything else to add?
I guess the email is kind of the smoking gun here, but say there was no email. Is that in John's normal nature to just be super friendly and compliment people on a daily basis? Because maybe it's the way I word things sometimes, but sometimes people don't really understand what I'm trying to convey to them when I'm talking to them. Had a neighbor ask me to do some work on their trailer, and I said, well, if you're just going to do it kind of for no reason, and I kind of used the word nothing, but she thought, oh, I'm not going to pay you or something. I meant, no, I'm not going to fix that if, it's just for nothing, if you're just going to take it apart. So sometimes, is it just taken out of context, or is, in this case, obviously there's the email, which is kind of the proof, but I compliment people on a daily basis just because I like to for people to feel, comfortable and feel good about themselves, and everybody. I just want everybody to be happy and get along. And maybe there was a drawer open, jam full of file boxes, and you had to put your hand on their shoulder to kind of get by them without rubbing a different part of your body on them. There's
two sides to every story, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
no, that's a good point. I mean, that would come out when you talk to John, right? You're going to get his side of the story. Does he feel that he acted inappropriately? Does he even see it now? The email, if that was truly that he asked her out, well, that is definitely crossing the line, because he's in a position of authority. And I did throw that in there, that she hasn't said anything to him, and I love some of the discussion I heard, but he's in a position of authority, so she might feel very intimidated to say anything. So, and I agree. I'm the kind of person that I will just, hey, that's totally inappropriate. You can't say that. I would say that, but not everybody will. And you need to protect the people that won't say that. So that's not a valid, that doesn't discount what's happened here. Yeah. Yeah. Well, exactly. So what would you discipline or terminate? What would the outcome potentially be? I mean, there's a lot of.
One thing that we kind of talked about first was talking to Lisa about what her ideal outcome would be. So if she feels that she couldn't return back to that work environment, then there needs to be something going on there. But I think we kind of said written, well, depending on the investigation, a written warning for sure, possible suspension, and then if it actually everything lines up and this would be a second offense, or if it wasn't just the first time, then termination.
Yeah, if he continued, for sure. Now that's I would ask that question of her carefully, depending on if she's very emotional. I need him fired. And then if you don't do that, she's going to be really upset, right? So that's I can see that you might want to ask that. I would ask that of John too. What do you think? What do you think's appropriate here? What should you do? And if he's very remorseful, say, I didn't mean it to come across this way. This will never happen again. Then maybe a written warning, right? If he doesn't see anything wrong, this could be a bigger issue, right? So really, it all depends on the responses on all parts, right? On how this really could play out, but yeah. But would on the facts, wouldn't necessarily terminate right. I would say a written warning is and making it very clear that this cannot happen again. Yeah. And if it does, it would jump right to termination. There would be this would not be progressive, in my opinion. Yeah. No, this isn't.
Part of our discussion too is all too often when somebody is terminated or let go, then the employees all speak up about, did you realize discipline pattern is the tip of the iceberg?
Exactly.
So that's kind of the reality side that we hit off. If you fail to act, you lose trust and respect yourself too.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you're right. That's when a lot of the other things come out. Maybe this is something, probably not in this scenario, but I did have to fire someone for harassment one time. That once we did terminate the individual, all these other stories started to come out. This had been ongoing for some time. So it was the right thing to do in that situation. And again, built trust and okay, they dealt with this in a,
The thing I try to do, whether it's a customer coming to you with a complaint or an employee coming with a complaint, just thanking them for bringing it up. Sometimes
Absolutely.
It's counterintuitive to thank you for tearing a strip off of us, but
yeah.
it shows that they're being heard and that they're being understood. And often you can come out of that smelling a lot better than had the issue never come up.
That's right. Thanking them. And in this situation, it takes a lot of courage, right, to come forth with something like this. So, that's very good point.
Kind of along those lines too, and what we were talking about is, well, this said, I don't want that. Well, it's that reputation of our company on the line there too. If she comes to us with this serious complaint and we say, well, you should have done something about it, that's our response to it. How does that make us?
Exactly. And it doesn't look good. You're absolutely right. And you can't in this case because he's in a position of authority. So that's where we can't assume, like, not everybody would be comfortable with having that conversation on their own. Yeah. Well, thank you for the lively discussion. And that wraps up what other questions do you have or any other comments about this last portion that we discussed? Thanks so much for your time. It was a pleasure to meet everyone, and I really enjoyed the group and enjoyed meeting you all, and I wish you all the best. Thanks again.